Shortly after 8 a.m. on the morning of the 7th of August 1974, something happened in New York that has been called the artistic crime of the century. What was it?
The original Birkin bag was sold by Sotheby's at auction not so long ago for over $10 million US. Who was Birkin and why the big fuss over her handbag?
Listeners with kids will know all about the elf on a shelf. Unlike the long-established tradition of Santa Claus, this one is pretty new. Not everyone is happy about it. We'll explain.
Are you a collector of souvenirs? If so, you're not alone. The practice of souveniring goes way back to ancient times. We'll give you some history.
Hello, welcome to REMORANDOM, the podcast, the video podcast. I'm Remo Dufresne.
And I'm Claudia Chanshaw.
Welcome back to Remo World, Claudia. I haven't seen you again for a while, but you know, the good thing is that the big gaps between our sessions means that there's always lots to catch up on, and more so as we lead into the end of the year, because it gets kind of busy.
I have missed you so much. Yeah. I can't begin to tell you.
I've missed you too. You've got a little bit of a social media presence, so I do sometimes I feel like I'm sitting next to you in that high-end Japanese restaurant with a labubu on my lap. But if I can find that picture, you can find that picture that's going into this episode.
Okay, I got it.
So end of year is looming. By the time when this episode goes to air, there'll still be a few days left on our Black Friday sale on Remo. So check that out. We kind of threw the towel in and joined everyone else, I think, last year. So might as well. You know, people are happy to pay full price in December because they're desperate, but there's this expectation. It's the old frenzy that used to be associated with Boxing Day is kind of like shifted forward to the end of November. So
exactly, and we picked it up from the Americans because it's traditionally the Friday after Thanksgiving. Because we don't celebrate Thanksgiving. And then they move into Cyber Monday.
Yeah, which sounds a bit... Cyber Monday sounds daggy. I don't want to say that.
Well, you know what? We should develop more. We should have Talkative Tuesday where we just go...
So since we last spoke, I have interviewed my wife, Melanie, and also Matthew.
She said
Coulis.
Yes.
Funny thing is, I don't really know how to do it live with the current setup, so she had to just sit at the other end of the apartment while I was sitting here in the office, and then we kind of got together for a cup of tea afterwards. So that was fun. She's a natural. I'm not sure that she'll do it again, but she might. So had a garage sale. The garage sale trail is this national thing now. I think simultaneously there were 13 or 14,000 garage sales happening at the same time last weekend. And because I know the founders of it, Daryl Nichols and Andrew Valder, who are like local Bondi guys, they said, why don't you do a Remo garage sale? Because they know I've got, you know, an oversupply of shopping list fridge magnets and a few other bits and pieces. But I did take the opportunity to put the books out there in front of the garage on Brighton Boulevard last Saturday.
How'd you go?
Well, here's the thing, that the first sale of the day on the dot of 9 o'clock, the local rock star real estate agent, Rick Sorreo, hi Rick if you're watching this, pulls up on his Vespa and says... because I was selling them singly and in the sets of 5. And he said, I'll have 10 sets. And I thought, okay, that's a pretty good kickoff to the garage sale. So he's going to give them to his kind of clients. So that's the kind of behaviour I'm looking to encourage, folks.
Did he pop them on the back of his Vespa, or did you deliver later?
They're still sitting in our living room, so he's yet to pick them up. But I did, in the time-honoured fashion of getting ahead of myself, I did brag about it on social media, and bumped into a friend on the promenade this morning on the way back from the pool, and she said, I saw that post about Rick, and it's given me and Michael an idea. We're going to all of our gifts this year are going to be memorandum books or sets of books or subscriptions to your Substack. So I thought, okay, that's going to be good.
That's great. That's excellent. Keep waving that flag, my friend. Keep waving that flag.
I know. Anyway, let's move on to our stories of the day, stories for this episode. And let me kick off with a story of daring that takes us back to New York City and the morning of the 7th of August 1974. So if you're old enough, you'll remember probably that this was the morning that high wire artist Philippe Petit did a tightrope walk between the now not there Twin Towers in New York City. And that is the thing that's been called the artistic crime of the century. So he spent 45 minutes walking and performing between the Twin Towers, which 412 meters. I can barely, I can feel the sweat gathering on my palms just as I think about how close to death you are at that height when you're walking across a wire. But apparently he had become obsessed with doing this when he saw an image of the buildings in a dentist's waiting office 6 years before. And so he'd always loved climbing, and this then became his ultimate challenge.
Wow.
But he spent 6 years planning it, and which involved 200 visits to the Trade Center construction site because it was being built at the time, and gathering together of a bunch of accomplices that joined him in this passionate obsession. Oftentimes they visited the site in disguise so that they wouldn't be recognized. They pretended to be architects. They pretended to be all sorts of things. So the plan was to actually get the because all of that walking wire weighed 200 kilograms. So how do you get that from one building to another? And so he devised this method that involved a bow and arrow. And so being on top of one building and shooting an arrow to the top of the other with a fishing line attached to it, right? So then on top of the other building, the fishing line gradually became a slightly thicker cord, and that gradually became slightly thicker and slightly thicker until it was the metal cable that got hauled up. So it was kind of a big deal, and which involved a lot of work and a lot of physical terror as they raced the clock to get this thing in place and safe before he started, walking out across it. And by the time he did, there were a lot of people down on the street looking up, thinking, what's going on? And he didn't just walk across it. There's a documentary that
Man
is
on the Wire.
Unbelievable. Yeah, Man on Wire won Academy Award for Best Documentary back in 2008. But he didn't just, walk across. He sort of did goofy things like lie down and, cross his legs. And
God.
I am in awe of that courage. You're talking to someone who won't go up an escalator if there's too much void to the right and to the left. I think we've talked about
We have. I'm with you. I'm with you there.
Fear of heights before. Anyway, so when he got back down, he was arrested immediately and taken for a psychiatric evaluation. not charged. The DA dropped the charges on the condition that he did an aerial show for children in Central Park. So that was kind of like a sweet thing. So yeah, we've talked
Imagine
about
the wind up there, though. Imagine the
Doco.
wind. Oh, my God.
Well, maybe he chose a day that wasn't going to be so windy. So what motivated him? He was interviewed by Gary Maddox, who's an Australian journalist, in 2015 for the Sydney Morning Herald, and he said he wasn't in it for the fame. He wasn't in it to break records. He was just in it for the theatre and about creating art. For him it was an artwork, the walk. And so nice story, and with an interesting Australian hookup and angle. I say that because a couple of weeks ago I was at the local Bondi Golf and Diggers Club for Thursday night curry night, and I met a guy, Chris Hilton. He's an executive producer now, but way back when, in 1987, he was the Spider-Man who climbed Centre Point Tower here in Sydney. And I don't know if you remember that, but I vaguely did. And that night we traded a few emails. He sent me a link to a YouTube video which has his own kind of version of Man on Wire, because he planned this for a long time as well and ended up doing it on his own.
There was a guy also in Shanghai who climbed up the Jin Mao Tower, which is like a contemporary Art Deco building. It's crossed between a Chinese temple and an Art Deco skyscraper in Pudong in Shanghai. And he had a Spider-Man suit on and shimmied up the building.
Right, okay.
Yep. Not only did he shimmy up, he shimmied down as well.
All right. Well, this is one thing you won't catch me doing, folks, but
Nor
onward.
Nor I. Now, something a little closer to the ground, maybe a little closer to the body. Tell me, how does a handbag become an it bag? And I don't mean IT, I mean it bag. How does it achieve legendary status? And would you pay millions of dollars for a handbag? Or as Lady Bracknell in The Importance of Being Earnest said, a handbag? Well, today we're talking about a handbag, which is the Birkin bag. And we've heard of the Birkin bag. The original Birkin bag. Now, the story of how it came to be is quite well known. In 1883, the Hermès executive chairman, Jean-Louis Dumas, was sitting on a flight from Paris to London, and next to him was the very lovely, very charming Jane Birkin, a British singer, actress, model. And you may remember Jane Birkin from her very breathy song with Serge Gainsbourg, her lover of the time. Oui, je t'aime, moi non plus. Da, 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 da. We had our own version in the 70s with Abigail from Number 96 doing a version of that. Do you remember?
Yes, I do.
Lots of heavy breathing. Anyway, so she wasn't heavy breathing on the plane. So back to the aeroplane. So Birkin's, she's just put her bag in the overhead locker, and it's a straw basket, and she puts it up, and as soon as she puts it up, it falls out from the overhead locker, and there's stuff's going everywhere, and glamorous, beautiful Jane is putting everything back in the bag, and then pops it up the top, and she says, apologizes to Dumas, who's next to her, and says, it's really, really hard to find a leather handbag come weekender that will carry all of this stuff. So, ding! Like any good CEO, he's trying to impress his very famous and very charismatic young woman. He grabs an air sickness bag, not because he's feeling ill, but because he goes, and he sketches on the air sickness bag a bag that can hold all of this stuff for her, and that bag becomes the leather Birkin bag. And they release it, Hermès releases it in 1984, and it becomes one of the most exclusive and recognizable accessories in the world. So it's very, very high-end, premium materials, calf leather, ostrich, crocodile, lizard, and every Birkin bag takes up to 48 hours for the artisan to hand make it. They can be 25 centimeters, 40 centimeters. They typically begin about 10,000 US dollars. So they are very, very high end, and they're hard to get. You need to be a customer of Hermès who has proved their salt to be on the list for a Birkin bag. Anyway, so it becomes a symbol of wealth and exclusivity, investment potential, because in the secondary market, Birkins are often more expensive on the secondary market than it cost in the first place. In 2017, a Himalayan Birkin, so named because it's made of crocodile and dyed white and grey to replicate the ripples, the ups and downs of the Himalayan mountains.
Oh, God. Okay.
For 18-carat white gold hardware encrusted in diamonds, sold at auction for 380,000 US dollars. World record of the time, most expensive handbag ever sold. Then they sold another one in 2022, 450,000 US dollars, and the original Birkin sold at Sotheby's in 2025 for a staggering 10.1 million US dollars. Rich, very rich. Of course, it's been the subject of parody. In 2021, there was a TikTok user, and they spotted a bag at Walmart that looked particularly like a Birkin bag, and it was called the Walmart Workin, and it's 20 US dollars faux leather, and it became a bit of an internet sensation. But it's more than a fashion item. It's a status symbol. It's a collector's object. It's a ripple on economic analysis, but we love its origin story, the humble story of that crazy straw bag with too much stuff in it, that little sketch on the air sickness bag, and it's all become a part of the myth of the Birkin bag.
It is incredible, and for me, a nice feature is the fact that Jane Birkin herself, her bag didn't look prissy and precious at all. She had stickers on it. She had things hanging off it. She was involved in a lot of not-for-profit endeavors. So her thing was just, functionality, and this aura was created around it, even though she was far from prim and proper about her usage of the bag. And
in fact, I was going to say, in fact, that she did ask for her name to be taken off the bag because it was using endangered species. So she was very, very aware of the environment.
Yeah, I can't imagine there was too many of those Himalaya-coloured crocodiles roaming on the earth when they culled them to make bags out of them. Okay, on to the next topic, and it's topical because we are staring down the barrel of the end of the year and Christmas, just over a month away. The Elf on a Shelf. Have you heard of the Elf on a Shelf?
I've heard of the Elf on a Shelf, and I'm glad you're going to tell me the story because I don't know where the little thing came from.
Well, that's not surprising because I think I barely had heard of it because I don't have young children anymore. But I think if you've got young children, you would know all about the Elf on a Shelf. So it actually began its life as a self-published children's book in 2005, created by Carol Ebersold and her daughter Shanda Bell. So the story, and they had this kind of family tradition internally just in their household where they had this little elf sitting on the shelf, and it kind of moved around during Christmas. And the Shanda was at Carol's house one time and looked up at the elf and said, "Mum, we should write a book and share our elf tradition with the rest of the world." And her hunch was correct. And what is the tradition? Well, this is how it works. Each night, notionally, the elf returns to the North Pole to report on the child's behaviour from that day, and then reappears in a different spot in the house the next morning. and so
Okay.
on and so forth. And this happens all through December. So unlike the Santa Claus tradition, which has been around for a long time, and Santa Claus has this centuries old folklore and quasi-religious tradition, the elf on a shelf is very recent and somewhat of a commercial invention, it has to be said. So Santa represents this joyful, generous spirit of giving, but the elf is more acts more as a sort of behavioural monitor, part playmate and part surveillance tool, looking out over the children. The Santa visits just once a year, bringing gifts if the child has been good, but the elf is there every bloody day, observing, evaluating conduct. There's a Saturday Night Live clip that's worth a look at, where the downside of the elf not being able to shut its eyes is articulated through a story that involves a young adolescent man of a certain age doing what young adolescent men of a certain age might do in front of an elf, if they don't realise that the elf can watch. Anyway, the whole thing has generated some praise and some criticism. From a positive point of view, it's a creative bonding activity with parents and engaging way to sort of build the anticipation for Christmas. But some educators, psychologists on the downside reckon it normalises surveillance for kids, and they come to think that it's okay that you're sort of being spied on all the time, and that's an acceptable thing. So, and it also puts an extra burden on parents, because the first thing they have to do when they wake up in the morning or before they go to bed at night is think, where the hell are we going to put the elf now? So in some ways I'm glad that we dodged that bullet, Claudia, for different reasons, but never became part of our lives.
There you go. The elf on the shelf. Well, it's catchy. It's very catchy.
Yeah. And
thanks for explaining that.
Pleasure. I'll keep hunting for new traditions for you and throw them in there.
I'm just looking around. Maybe I could have the robot on the shelf, and if I'm naughty, it will blast me.
Well, word has it that you've got plenty of those robots. So,
okay, I have. When I collect these robots, many of them are souvenirs of my travels, which is a neat way to segue into our next story. And we like souvenirs. Souvenirs comes from the French souvenir, which is a memory to remember. And it's an object that you generally acquire when you go somewhere and you bring it back, and it symbolises these memories that you have associated with the place. So traveller's souvenirs are the most popular, and little memento of a visit somewhere you've been. And it could be valuable or not. It could be a pebble from a beach. It could be anything, or just maybe souvenirs of your memories. But they go a long way back. Ancient pilgrims collected relics and soil or fragments from sacred sites. Crusaders brought back religious tokens, talismans. Rome and Egypt, tourists used to chisel off bits of famous monuments and take them home. And medieval pilgrims brought little vials of holy water with them. You could have little Roman miniature amphorae and busts as mementos from their travels. Well, come the 19th century, and really even before that, when you've got the Grand Tour, people are bringing things home from the cultured Europe. But 19th century, we've got railways and steamships, so you can go places, and tourism explodes, especially with the middle class. And so the production of affordable travel mementos starts to happen. You've got little seashells from Brighton Beach, or Eiffel Tower key rings, even in the early 1900s, which is not so far-fetched, because Eiffel Towers, 1889, so it's already a little bit old. Snow domes, all sorts of goodies. So the shift from bringing these spiritual or religious relics to commercial nostalgia. And they're things that we bring back with us. And they're actually proof that say, I was there. I went there because I bought back this. Now, they've moved more away from the a religious relic or the talisman to mass-produced kitsch. You get the T-shirt saying, my friend went to Vegas and all I got was this lousy T-shirt.
This lousy T-shirt.
The fridge magnet, the big band, the bobbleheads. But even kitsch has its value. Now, I thought this was very appropriate that I show you my Eiffel Tower. And we can imagine Paul Petit walking across 2 Eiffel Towers on his high wire. I have here my
very good.
Empire State Building. King Kong fell off, so I've got a bit of blue tack to hold him on. And you can't go past the Las Vegas Snow Dome. So
with calendar to boot.
With calendar. It's silly because the day and the month and the day move, so it's only ever accurate once a year. But these things are real. People like me, lunatics like me, bring them home. I also have a collection of floaty pens, which would be a great topic for a future memorandum. The origin of the floaty pen, where you turn it up one way and the other.
Turn it up. Yep. Yeah, that's
cool. They had some that were called tip and strip, where the lady is fully clothed. You turn it up and she's in her undies. Dirty old man. Anyway, today it's maybe not so much about the commercial stuff. I don't think so. And it's about the handcrafted things that you can bring back. The hand-woven textiles from Mexico, the small batch jams, the handmade ceramics made from regional clay. Support local. It's ethical. But you can, print do your own do-it-yourself ones where you engrave your name. You can paint your own Delft tile in the Netherlands. But maybe the greatest souvenirs of all, of course, are our photographs. So they're very important. And Terry Durack, who is, restaurant critic at large, wrote a piece in the Sydney Morning Herald.
And the person who gave this idea for this chapter, by the way.
That's right, inspired this chapter. He wrote in the Herald in May this year, some of the best souvenirs are bought by necessity. The corkscrew I suddenly needed for a picnic in Vienna, for obvious reasons, is still my favourite, and I've numerous small sharp knives bought in villages and markets for the purpose of cheese. So these kinds of souvenirs are the gift that keep giving, are they not?
Yeah, here I agree totally with Terry. I love I love going into a hardware store and buying the French breath fresheners. When I'm in Paris, and just like that's my memory of being there, or the blue jacket that I wear every day. So take them out of context.
Souvenir.
We've gone a little bit over time, but we've loaded people up with a lot of information, which I know that they now have to go away and process. So thank you, Claudia. We'll see you again before Christmas. Be sure to tell all your friends to buy up big on Remoranda books available from the store. Remorandom.com has the link.
And also you might have some cool ideas. I've got better than that Empire State Building souvenir. I've got a story about So yes, my contribution today is let's talk about floaty pens next time.
I'm going to look it up as soon as I hang up from this call.
It's a good story. It's a good story. Yep. And look up the tip and strips.
Will do. Don't think less of me because I look too long at those tip and strips. I can't even say it. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.